Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Neo and I'm joined by my cousin Franco.
What's going on, everybody?
We're gonna talk about the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross ending. It was pretty crazy. I think that we were both really satisfied with the way it ended. So guys, this is your big spoiler warning right here. There are gonna be massive spoilers in this video. We're gonna talk about everything that was revealed and all the stuff that happened in the ending. So if you did see the ending, then great, we're gonna have a great time talking about it. If not, make sure you go watch it. The English translated version is on Everglow's YouTube channel. We're really thankful that they got to translating it so quickly. So go to Everglow's YouTube channel, watch that if you haven't, and come back here for our spoiler talk. You know, when Union Cross came out, everyone was getting really mad that the Kingdom Hearts lore is now moving to mobile devices. Like, it wasn't more complicated enough going from the DS to the PSP to the 3DS. And, you know, not everybody's into mobile games. I know I wasn't the biggest player of Union Cross because it was on mobile. And I think that there was a lot of hesitance for Union Cross in general due to the medium that it was on. But I think that's something that was really special about Union Cross, that this ending totally delivered on, was that Union Cross was always supposed to be adding to the story that was already there. It was never meant to replace any main installments, and it was always just giving extra context, extra lore. And you can even tell with KH3 that you did not need anything from Union Cross to understand the story. You probably needed some back cover, but even then, that's only to understand the context behind the box. So this ending, it had the perfect middle ground between massive plot reveals that fit within the medium it was being told in. So Frank, you watched the ending. What did you think about it?
It really, caught me off guard. I think this was an ending that was better than it really had any right to be.
Definitely.
You telling me you're going to make a mobile game about the history of the Keyblade War, everything going on with the Foretellers and the Union, and you're gonna really craft a solid story out of it. I would have thought that was impossible years ago when we got back cover and all this stuff started out, and it was just like kind of a fun mobile game. But how the Union Cross has kind of evolved over the time, it really became this intense story about these characters and giving more context into the history of Kingdom Hearts and everything leading up to where we are currently with Sora and the gang right now. I think it did an excellent job basically giving us that finality to this story that they have been going for how long has Union Cross been going? It had to be 6 years maybe?
I believe it started in 2015.
That is incredible,
yeah.
Honestly, how long this game has lasted and been able to... It seems like they definitely got to tell the story they wanted to. When we heard that it was ending, we didn't know if it was because there was no more money or funds for this, but they got to tell their story the way they wanted to, and it really left me kind of shocked, for lack of a better word. Not only giving us answers to some questions that we've been dying to find out, how did we go from Daybreak Town to Skyline Kylum? What happened to the Union leaders? But it just leaves...
Who's the traitor?
Yeah, who's the traitor? We know probably the biggest theory that people have been talking about since the beginning, that our player character is Xehanort, kind of going full circle with the whole everyone is Xehanort meme, if you wanna go that far. But it's so true, because Xehanort is... This might be unpopular opinion. Xehanort is the main character of Kingdom Hearts in any way you want to do it. Yes.
No.
Yes. Everything revolves around him. Going forward, obviously, it's going to not as we're moving on past the Xehanort saga. But come on, it's literally called the Xehanort saga. We have been following this man through almost every stage, every phase, every different form of his life, and this really shows us his true origins. And I think I would have loved if they had took whatever they do in the Dark Road and made that the kind of prologue in Kingdom Hearts, but just giving us the full context of who Xehanort was, who he came from, and why he's important. And that's what I appreciate the most from this ending. It gave me that kind of extra context with Xehanort that I've been yearning for, and it kind of makes everything in Kingdom Hearts 3 and so forth more impactful and make him more a compelling character.
Yeah, I even went back and I watched the ending of when Sora and Xehanort face off, and even when Xehanort has to, go off into the light with Ericus, and I don't know, I just felt something different. I just felt like this weird sense of sympathy for Xehanort. And it's because we know that the player is still in there somewhere, that he sacrificed everything to go be Xehanort. It just adds such a brand new layer to this character that was already so complex. And I really gotta hand it to Nomura for making that work, and for having a game like Kingdom Hearts 3 that came out 2 years ago, and we're still finding Easter eggs and seeds that he planted for things to come in the future.
Yes, definitely. Like, Nomura, like, as much as people want to clown him for maybe, like, making some things a little too convoluted, he knows how to make it come off full circle.
Yeah, I mean, I really now have no grievances with Union Cross's existence. I know for a while everyone was kind of disappointed with the way it was turning out, but I'm pretty satisfied with what they gave us. It wasn't too much and it wasn't too little. But I want to talk more about what happened in that finale in general. So, like, Luchu body snatches Brain. We got Ephemer builds Scala. We know the player is Xehanort. So let's start off with Luchu and Brain. So, how do we feel about that? I mean, Luchu just straight up, I don't know if we don't know if he killed him yet, but he stole Brain's body. That's kind of crazy.
I mean, yeah, like, I mean, we know he said it. Luchu, at the very end of Kingdom Hearts 3, he said, I've been through plenty of semblances since, but it's still him underneath it all.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense. This is probably his first body snatch. Plenty more to come. And honestly, when you think about it, Brain was probably the best option to him at the moment. At the end, we do see it's up to debate whether we want to say if it's Luchu, Brain, or at the very end in Scala, or is this Brain, like, Prime, basically, or Brain OG, if you want to say. We don't really know. So, like, how does it work? If Luchu takes his body, and then when he doesn't want it anymore, he moves on to his Brain free? Like, how does Brain end up in Scala all these years later?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that is the real Brain in Scala, because it says that, oh, I'm so proud of my best friend. Luchu would not say that. So I think that line is our indication that this is still the real Brain, and somehow, whether it was he was put into a pod, his heart, or somehow, I think that's the real Brain in Scala ad Caelum in the future. But I want to talk about Scala ad Caelum because, first of all, it is so cool that they showed us Scala ad Caelum in KH3, and they let us play through it, and then they gave us the context for how it got there, because it was so mysterious in KH3, we didn't know anything about it. And then now we're learning all this stuff, and it's so much cooler because we've been here. We know Sora has been here, and he had no idea that there was all this history and everything behind it. And Ephemer building Scala, basically kind of repopulating the Keyblade world, that's crazy. And that Scala is so sick. We have to go there. We have to go to that version of Scala in KH4 because it's too cool to not be its own world and to see it in 3D. I loved it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, at first, I didn't even really know where we were. It was just such, like, a different textures and, like I guess, like, the streets and all the buildings. It looked different than anything else we really seen from Scala before, so I didn't even really recognize it. So then, when the guy, Sigurd, not really sure how you say it, he said, you're in Scala ad Caelum. I'm like, wait, what? For real?
Right.
Like, this is Scala? Like, where was this in KH3? Like, this place looks sick and dark and mysterious with all, like, the buildings. We saw, like, the gargoyles on the top. Like, it looked insane. And you're telling me that our boy Ephemer, not only did he survive the break, as we see when that pod opened, somehow his heart didn't go into the future. He stayed in the present, and he survived. He built up from the ruins of Daybreak Town and created Scala, created a new haven for the Keybladers to be repopulated and then not go away. He pretty much set, like, everything else in motion. Like, it's probably because of him the Keyblade order didn't die.
Ephemer has been the MVP, and nobody knew. And I really wonder how he's going to be integrated into the series, because we know we saw the ghost version of him in KH3, but I would really love for them to all interact, and we know that now Ephemer does not go to the future, so he might be the one that doesn't interact with the cast, which would be unfortunate. But I've just been seeing all this stuff about about that version of Scala Kylam, and one thing that really has me wondering is what happened specifically to make that Scala Kylam different from the one that we know, because we saw that in that version of Scala Kylam, Xehanort was a baby, yet in the one where he's a teenager in Cage 3 when Ericus and him are playing chess, it's the one that we know from Cage 3. So what happened in those 18 or so years that totally changed it? Or is that a different island in Scala Kylam? Like, see, all of these secrets and all of these theories from 2 minutes worth of footage, it's crazy how Union Cross was able to do that. And I want to see more of it. I want to see this delivered in a real Cage game.
But then it kind of raises the argument. So, our player character, we know our player character was not taken over by darkness.
Yeah, the player character
trapped the darkness and led Ephemer and Skull to escape. So, when the player does reincarnate into Xehanort, what do you think dictates what kind of goes into that personality? Like, you think, like, how we've seen with Adventure Time, like, when they reincarnate, it's not like the ideals of the characters really change. They're more or less who they are in a different body, but we have our player character being essentially a hero to doing a full, like, 180 and being the Seeker of Darkness. So, do you think it was a kind of the context of when we see Xehanort's mother give him away to whoever that old man, like his kind of destiny or fate being like thrown off track from what it's supposed to be? Or do you think maybe in the Kingdom Hearts context of things, although your heart becomes a part of someone, that does not necessarily mean your path will be the same. You still have the choice to either choose the light or darkness.
Those are all really, really interesting, thought-provoking questions. Maybe you were onto something where what you just said, like how Xehanort's mother gave him away, maybe that shifted the course of his destiny. That's definitely a strong theory. But I think what you mentioned about how, like, maybe the player character's heart is inside Xehanort, but that doesn't mean that that's who he is, because we know that Ventus, Xion, and Roxas were all inside Sora's heart, but they didn't control him. They weren't him, his mind and his thought process. I think it's a little bit different because they're dealing with reincarnation here, but I do think it's possible that, like, the player is just chilling in Master Xehanort's heart, and he can't stop him from causing all this destruction and darkness. And that just adds another layer of tragedy to the player character's story. Like, why did they have to do us so dirty with the player character, make us feel so, like, it's such a sad story about the player character? First of all, he has to betray his best friends and make them and never, like, they'll never know that was an intentional sacrifice. They'll never know because Ephemer probably has passed by that point, and Xehanort is gone now, so the player character's gone, and they'll never know, and that's just a tragedy. And then now we have also that he was probably aware of what Xehanort was doing in his new life. So it's just a lot of, like, man.
Alright, I want to drop something on all you guys right now. Because honestly, I've had my doubts about this theory. Honestly, what you just brought up about Ventus and Xiang still being a part of Sora's hearts, but still being able to take their own form and control themselves, made me think of something. So, before being fully revealed that the player character was Xehanort, a lot of people thought that there was a chance he could be Yozora. What if somehow, we know for a fact, you being a part of someone else's heart does not mean you can't still have your own kind of form. What if somehow the player character is still Yozora? Like, it's still possible. What if Xehanort decided to let that part of his heart go in the same manner of kind of like Ventus got rid of Vanitas from his heart? Vanitas took his own form. What if he set the player character free, let him or her take her own form, and then we get Yozora? And that's why Yozora is so confused, like, why do you see me this way? Because we could see the player character in any way.
That is a really solid theory. I know that the Yozora is the player character theory has been floating around for a while. Shout out to Damo, he's the one that brought that to my attention. I'm not sure if it was before that. That is a really good argument because we know Xehanort can take that part out of Ventus with Vanitas. He's the one that took Vanitas out of him. So if he could do it to Ventus, why couldn't he do it to himself? And then if Yozora really is the player character, he's been stuck in Xehanort's body this whole time, who's been doing all the things that he doesn't want to do, he'd probably be mad and ready to, like, change things. So maybe that's why Yozora is doing all this crazy stuff, like trying to save Sora by beating the crap out of him, you know, and maybe he's out for revenge. And that would also make sense how to tie that into the Master of Masters, because the Master of Masters and the player obviously are from the same game, so they could have that connection there. So yeah, that's a really good theory, Frank. I like that, and I think, you know, moving forward, that's something to keep in mind. The last thing I wanted to mention is about how the Dream Eaters, everybody hated on the Dream Eaters. Now, nope. That's not happening anymore.
I don't want to hear no one talking any smack on the Dream Eaters anymore, because if that ending did not get you in your feels,
that's true.
Perfect. Couldn't think of a better way to incorporate them into the wider context of Kingdom Hearts.
I 100% agree. I can't believe that Nomura actually was able to do that. Like, he saw that everyone was like, yo, we hate the Dream Eaters, like, alright, I'll take care of that for you. And then with the Dream Eaters, we know that Sora bonded with them in Dream Drop Distance, and those are all the fallen Keyblade wielders, so now it makes perfect sense why all the fallen Keyblades come to help Sora defeat the Wave of Darkness in the beginning of the Keyblade War. So again, Union Cross adds so much to the pre-existing story that was already there. It adds context to the Keyblade, the fallen Keyblade wielders, Light of the Past. It adds context to Xehanort's story. It adds context to Luchu. Like, it was such a good way to just give us more. To give us more without having to sacrifice any time when they're making the main games. So, honestly, Union Cross will be missed. But it went out on such a high note, giving us new characters, giving us a new world that we're probably going to see in the future, and setting up such a great, bright future for Kingdom Hearts. So I thought it was a great, fantastic ending, and I can't wait to see what the future of Kingdom Hearts has in store for us. Frank, what do you have to say?
Okay, one more thing we have to touch on with the ending. So we see in the Master of Masters' final conversation with the Darkness, he pretty much confirms that he's going to Quadratum, the world of unfiction, or the world of fiction. A world that you could never imagine or understand. This is what he says to the Darkness. So we know he has been hiding out in Quadratum for who knows how many years. So are we going to assume that he kind of has control over that whole world, and that he is the one who wanted Sora there? He sent you whatever Yozora or whoever we think this could be right now, and he is basically setting up the next confrontation that is going to happen in whether it be Kingdom Hearts 4 or whatever spin-off. Is he really behind everything, or is he really just, this is the plan, Luchu, you gotta take care of this, I'm just gonna go vacation in here until you can bring everyone here? Or is this all part of the plan?
No, I definitely think the Master of Masters has had this planned. We can assume that he knew who Sora was because of the Book of Prophecies. So I think that he definitely sent Yozora after him, and that he wants him there. And I also think that we're going to meet him as soon as we're playable in Quadratum, whether it's the prologue of KH4, or if they want to do Dream Drop Distance 2 and have a Riku Sora playable journey in Quadratum. I think it won't be long before Sora and the Master Master come face to face. But I think that is all we have to say about the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross ending. I'm just so excited for whatever they give us. Whether it's a Union Cross game starring Brain and Lariam and Alrena and all their storylines, or if it's Ephemer building Scala, or if it's Verum Rex with Yozora, or if it's Dream Drop Distance 2. I just want more story, and I just cannot wait to see what they're building up. But guys, that's all we got for you today. If you enjoyed this podcast format, me and Franco started a little YouTube channel called the Cuzzo Cast with all podcasts like this. So go check that out if you'd like. We'd really appreciate it. But other than that, Frank?
Thank you guys so much for listening to me go on and talk about this series that I love so much and cannot wait to see what happens next. And thank you for having me. This has been a blast.
Of course. Alright guys, may your heart be your guiding key. I'll see you later.